You paid off the house? Bless him. But let's be honest. He's more like a nanny than a husband. I was flipping burgers when I heard it. The screen door was cracked open, the summer breeze carrying in the laughter. I didn't flinch. I didn't even look up from the grill. I just listened. Claire's voice always had a particular brightness when she was performing. For her sisters, her cousins, her little private audience. And tonight, she was on. I could hear the ice clinking in their glasses, the fake sympathy dripping from their voices, like they were already holding the eulogy for a man still standing 10 feet away, holding a spatula. One of her sisters chimed in, voice soaked in Chardonnay. He's a quiet little butler with a mortgage. A housemaid with a retirement account. Honestly, Claire, you gamed it perfectly. Laughter exploded. Not polite chuckles. Real, nasty, teeth-baring laughter. The kind that comes when people forget the person they're mocking has ears. I didn't walk inside. Didn't call them out. I flipped the last burger, set it on the platter, and carried it in like nothing happened. Claire didn't even glance at me. Just waved a hand. Oh good, food's here. Then turned right back to her sister and whispered something that made them both snort so hard one of them nearly choked on her wine. I stood there for a second, tray in hand, shirt damp with sweat, the smell of charcoal clinging to me. I looked around the kitchen. Plates I'd set out earlier. Drinks I'd poured. Groceries I'd picked up after reorganizing the fridge to make room. I smiled. Not out of kindness, reflex. Like a muscle twitch when you get hit in the gut. I ate outside, alone. The backyard was quiet. Just the faint hum of mosquitoes and the clink of silverware from the dining room behind me. After dinner, I did what I always did. Cleared the dishes. Loaded the dishwasher. Took out the trash. Put a new liner in. When I passed the living room, Claire was curled on the couch, legs across one of her cousin's laps. She didn't even look up from her phone. Thanks for dinner, Han, she said absently. Of course, I replied. My voice steady. Dry. Neutral. Upstairs, I folded my clothes slowly. My favorite dark green sweater, a few button-downs, the extra toothbrush from the cabinet, a copy of my birth certificate I'd tucked in the sock drawer years ago. At the bottom of the closet was the duffel bag I'd packed 6 months earlier. I zipped it shut. Walked downstairs. Opened the front door. Stepped outside. Claire didn't notice. Her laughter was still echoing behind me. I started the truck. Pulled out of the driveway I'd repaved last summer. Drove past the flower beds I'd replanted in spring. Past the mailbox I'd reinforced when it was falling apart. Past the swing set I installed for her grandnieces when they visited. Every splinter of that house had passed through my hands. Paid for, fixed, sanded, painted, preserved. But I wasn't her husband. I was a nanny. And apparently, a butler. With a mortgage. She said that like it was funny. She said that like I was nothing. I didn't slam the door on the way out. Didn't scribble a note. I left one window open, just a crack, because it was humid and I knew the living room always got stuffy in August. Kind of me, I know. I parked a few miles out, at a 24-hour diner where no one would recognize me. Ordered coffee. Black. Sat in a booth under flickering fluorescent lights and pulled out my phone. One message. Confirmed. Paperwork ready for morning. I stared at those words for a long time. Then I typed, on my way. Downtown at 6:47 a.m. is a different kind of quiet. Less peaceful, more surgical. Cold glass buildings reflecting gray clouds. Nobody pretending to smile. Just people moving with purpose, eyes on concrete. I like that. No small talk, no charade. I pulled into a reserved spot behind the building. Suite 304. No signage, just a buzzer beside the door and a pinhole camera above it. The man who opened the door wore a charcoal suit and the kind of smirk only someone with complete discretion could afford. He extended a hand. Director Whitmore. Right on time. I didn't correct him. Not because I believed I was some shadowy executive, but because I liked the sound of it. Director Whitmore. The title felt cleaner than nanny. Inside, the air smelled like printer toner and old carpet. A heavy steel filing cabinet stood in the corner. On the conference table, a thick leather folder, pen resting across it like a ritual blade. The deed has been finalized. The transfer was executed under Whitmore Family Legacy Trust as agreed. Claire's name has never touched any part of this property, and your payment confirmation has been recorded with the county clerk. He pushed the papers toward me. And the clause regarding revocation of non-beneficiary occupancy? He tapped a page with one perfectly manicured finger. Paragraph 9. Ironclad. Once filed, the eviction process, should you choose to initiate, is administrative. No court dates. No arguments. Just enforcement. I signed. It was anticlimactic. No fireworks, no gavel. Just ink on paper. But it was done. I stood. He handed me a copy in a sealed envelope. "Congratulations," he said. "Most men your age just drink about it." I gave him a nod, then left. Next stop, the storage unit. I'd rented it under a false LLC Claire never knew existed. On paper, it was Legacy Systems Consulting. Funny name for a glorified walk-in vault, but appropriate, because everything inside that unit had been part of a legacy Claire never bothered asking about. The door creaked open, the smell of dust and insulation sharp in the air. Inside were 5 rows of boxes, neatly stacked, labeled in thick black marker. Bank statements 2007 to 2013. Contractor receipts, roof, HVAC, plumbing. Photos, originals, prints only, no backups. Inheritance docs, Grandpa Williams Trust. And the last one, Claire, recordings and evidence. I didn't open it. Not yet. Just checked the temperature gauge on the back wall to make sure the climate control hadn't failed. Still optimal. Still clean. Everything was in order. My order. I grabbed the briefcase with my burner laptop, double-checked the folders for tomorrow's delivery, and exited. One last look back at the boxes. My little museum of betrayal, carefully curated. I stopped by the post office and paid cash for a 6-month rental on a private P.O. box. No forwarding address. No shared access. I slid the key into my pocket like it was a scalpel. Then the joint accounts. I'd already started splitting them 6 months ago, quietly moving funds to a solo account Claire didn't know about. But this time, it was final. One by one. Cancel joint savings. Close the vacation fund. Pull my auto deposit from our shared checking. Kill the Amazon Prime, the Hulu, even the grocery delivery tied to my card. Every dollar that had passed through my calloused fingers over the years was either locked down or redirected. I sent one final transfer, small, symbolic. $47.36. It was the exact price of the handbag Claire bought the night she forgot to pick me up from urgent care. Said she lost track of time at the outlet mall. I had sat on a cold curb for 2 hours with a fractured ankle. That transfer? Petty. I'll own that one. I parked behind a Shell station, called the number I'd been saving for last. It rang once. A woman answered. "Are we still on for tomorrow morning?" I smiled. "Yes. Be ready at 7. Already am." They have no idea what's coming, Mark. I looked up at the darkening clouds above downtown. No, they really didn't. Claire woke up late, the way she always did after a night of red wine and performance art for her sisters. Her voice was hoarse, her head dull. She rolled over and instinctively reached across the bed. Empty. She blinked, propped herself up. No Mark. The bathroom was dark. Closet doors closed. Nothing on the floor, no kicked-off shoes. She wandered downstairs, barefoot, mascara still smudged from the night before. The kitchen smelled like faint charcoal from the grill and Mark's absence. Still, she wasn't worried. She poured herself some orange juice, scrolled her phone, and muttered. Probably just went for a drive or something. By noon, she was poolside, in sunglasses and a robe, telling her friend Lydia on speakerphone that Mark was probably sulking. "I mean," Claire said with a laugh, "you know how he gets when he feels left out. Sensitive. Sweet. But he's always been more of a Labrador than a lion. Loyal. But you leave the gate open, and he'll just wait for you to call him back." Lydia laughed. "So what? He's having a little midlife crisis now." Claire smirked. "If he comes back with a tattoo and a motorcycle, I swear to God I'm making him sleep in the garage." She checked her banking app out of reflex. They had 3 accounts. The main checking, the savings for vacations, and Mark's old solo account they never really touched. Main, $0. Savings, $0. Solo, access denied. She sat up. "Huh. What?" Lydia asked. "Probably a glitch." Claire tried again. Same thing. 0. 0. Denied. She wasn't panicked yet. Just annoyed. She called the bank. Long hold. A man with a voice like beige wallpaper finally answered. "Yes, I'm seeing multiple transactions finalized this morning, ma'am. Transfer to a solo account ending in 3934, and both joint accounts have been formally closed." "Closed?" Claire repeated. "That's not possible. Those are joint accounts," he said politely. "Closed by the primary account holder." Claire blinked. "I'm listed as a joint. Secondary only. Would you like me to mail the paperwork on file?" Her lips thinned. "No." She hung up without saying goodbye. Then, for the first time in months, possibly years, Claire called her mother. Her mom picked up on the second ring. "Mark gone." Claire raised an eyebrow. "What?" Her mother sounded detached. "He called me last week. Said he might be going away for a bit. Told me not to panic if I didn't hear from him." Claire's stomach shifted. You knew? He asked me not to get involved. Claire stood, barefoot on the hot tile, as the sun vanished behind a cloud. So you knew he was planning to leave? Her mother sighed. I knew he was considering it. Frankly, I didn't think he had the spine. There it was again. That phrase they all used. Didn't think he had the spine. The same tone her sisters used. The same shrug Claire gave when she told stories about her husband playing house while she handled the real stuff. She hung up. Didn't say goodbye to her mother either. By late afternoon, things turned odd. Her iCloud account logged out. Netflix demanded a new password. Amazon too. The thermostat app gave her a notification. Access revoked by primary user. She checked the mailbox. It was stuffed. Statement of account termination. Revocation of household digital permissions. Letter from the DMV. Vehicle title transferred. Water bill changed to new account holder. Note from HOA. New property management contact listed under Whitmore Trust. Her throat went dry. She called Mark. Straight to voicemail. Called again. Same. No text. No ping. No little dot showing he was typing. Nothing. She tried logging into their home Wi-Fi dashboard. Blocked. The security cameras? Offline. Password rejected. She stared at the blinking red router like it had personally insulted her. Her world, every wire, every bill, every login, had been slowly, silently rerouted. Like a man tiptoeing out of a minefield he'd known for years was about to go off. By the time the sun had fully set, Claire wasn't laughing anymore. She was standing in her living room with a phone that couldn't reach him, staring at accounts she didn't control, sitting in a house she had never truly owned. And for the first time in a long time, she realized just how quiet a house can get when the man you mocked is no longer in it. Claire sipped her coffee like it was just another Tuesday. The ceramic mug said Queen Bee, a Mother's Day gift she'd insisted Mark buy back when he was still desperate to be appreciated. Her sisters were lounging around the kitchen island, still in oversized t-shirts and bedhead, trading stories about bad dates and worse husbands. Claire, of course, had the crown jewel of anecdotes, her vanishing act of a spouse. Still no word from him? Gina asked, peeling the top off a muffin. Not a peep, Claire replied with a smirk. Which means he's either halfway to finding himself in a canyon somewhere or holed up in a Motel 6 writing bad poetry. They laughed, and she took another sip. He'll come crawling back. He always does. Mark's allergic to conflict. The man apologizes to furniture when he bumps into it. That's when her phone rang. She glanced at the screen. Mom. With a dramatic groan, Claire answered. Let me guess. You saw a Lifetime movie that reminded you of my love life? But her mother's voice was not in the mood for banter. It was tight. Trembling. Claire. Dear God. What did you do? Claire blinked. What? Look outside. Her mother snapped. Do you know who is on your lawn right now? Claire stood abruptly, nearly sloshing coffee on her robe. Her sisters froze, watching her. She crossed the room, phone still pressed to her ear, and pulled back the curtain. Across the street, a sleek black sedan was parked with its engine running. A man in a navy suit and dark sunglasses stood beside it, clipboard in hand. Behind him, a moving van idled. Two men in branded polo shirts were already unloading what looked like protective wraps and rolled-up rugs. Her stomach dropped. They just walked across the lawn, her mother continued. One of them knocked on my door, thought it was yours. He had a trust document. Your name's not on it. What the hell are you talking about? Claire snapped. But the call ended. Claire dropped the curtain and marched toward the front door. Her sisters scrambled behind her like kids trying to catch a fight. She flung it open just as the man in the suit stepped onto the front porch. He didn't flinch, didn't even glance at her in surprise. Can I help you? Claire demanded. Yes, ma'am, he said coolly, flipping a page on his clipboard. We're here under authorization of the Whitmore Family Legacy Trust. This property is currently under transfer hold pending a change in legal management and beneficiary review. Claire blinked. Excuse me. He gestured politely but firmly to the document. Effective 7 a.m. this morning, the property and surrounding assets are under procedural reassignment, as authorized by the acting trustee, Mr. Mark Whitmore. She stared at him like he was speaking Greek. You mean my husband? I mean the trustee, he corrected. Claire's mouth opened, then closed. Her sisters hovered behind her, whispering. She took the paper from his hand without asking and skimmed. Her heart rate spiked. It wasn't a joke. This wasn't a bluff. There were real signatures. Stamps. An official seal. Her name wasn't listed anywhere. Look, I don't know what game my husband is playing, she hissed. The man didn't react. Just tapped the line again. This property was never registered jointly. Your occupancy status is contingent on trustee approval. We're just here to initiate the inventory and prepare for the handoff process. You can't just barge in here with some clipboard and—" He calmly gestured toward the van. "We're not here to take anything today, just to assess. Unless you'd like us to call the sheriff and initiate early enforcement." Her jaw tightened. He knew she wouldn't. Not with her sisters behind her. Not with neighbors peeking from across the street. Not with her mascara still half melted from last night. The man turned, signaling the movers. They stepped back onto the lawn, not in a hurry. Not in fear. Just moving forward. Like this was their house now, and she was the stranger. Claire's fingers clenched around the document. Because this wasn't just legal jargon. This was Mark. Silent, deliberate Mark, pulling the pin on a grenade he'd been building under her nose. And now, her perfect little kingdom had a new landlord. And he was watching. Somewhere, calmly, patiently, knowing she'd finally realized. The front door didn't belong to her anymore. There it was, sitting on the dining table like a final judgment. A plain white envelope, thick with documents, the flap sealed with an embossed sticker. No return address. Just her name in Mark's careful, mechanical handwriting. Claire. Claire stood there in the stillness of the kitchen, the hum of the fridge sounding unnaturally loud behind her. Her sisters had left an hour ago, muttering weak excuses as soon as the man in the suit began measuring windows. Even Gina, the mouthiest of the bunch, had gone quiet when the moving team rolled out blueprints. Claire hadn't eaten, hadn't showered. She had paced, called Mark's number again, voicemail, emailed him, bounced back, searched his name on Facebook, profile deleted. And now, this envelope. She peeled it open with a fingernail, hands stiff. The first page was a letter, dated 3 days ago. Claire, I'm sorry it came to this. I truly am. You always said I was passive, weak, quiet, and maybe that was true for too long. But I don't believe in revenge. I believe in correction. This house was paid off in full using my inheritance from my grandfather. A man who taught me that loyalty without dignity is servitude. I was loyal for a long time. Too long. As of last month, this property and the land it rests on are held under the Whitmore Family Legacy Trust. You were never added. That was intentional. Mark Whitmore. Trustee. Her vision blurred for a second. She reached for the countertop to steady herself. The next pages were worse. A notarized deed transfer. Dated 6 weeks ago. Filed in the county office. The stamp was real. The signatures were real. The trust was real. It listed Mark as the sole trustee. The listed successor? A woman named Eleanor Whitmore, his cousin, the one Claire always dismissed as a spinster librarian in Montana. Claire wasn't listed at all, not even as a contingent occupant. Then came the clause, highlighted in yellow. All non-beneficiary occupants may be subject to revocation of residence privileges at the sole discretion of the acting trustee. A minimum of 72 hours notice is required. No court approval necessary. Her hands trembled. She flipped back to the first page, searching for loopholes. There were none. It was cold, clean, bulletproof. She grabbed her phone and hit Mom again. Claire, her mother answered. Her tone wasn't confused. It was wary. Did you know about this? Claire's voice cracked. A long pause. He called me last month. What? Mark. He said he wanted to make things official. Told me not to get involved. Said you'd probably be upset, and I should let it blow over. And you didn't tell me? Her mother sighed. I didn't know it was this. He didn't sound angry. Just resolute. He sounded more like your father than I've ever heard him. Claire's mouth dropped. What does that even mean? It means, her mother said slowly, he wasn't playing house anymore. He was drawing lines. Claire slammed the phone down onto the table. She looked around the room. Her room. The kitchen she remodeled. The dining chairs she handpicked. The backsplash she made Mark install and reinstall 3 times because it wasn't the right shade of gray. Except it wasn't hers. None of it was. She opened the cabinet where they kept the wine, locked. A sticky note taped to the door. Inventory control active per trustee order. She tore it off, nearly ripping the cabinet door off its hinge. Inside, nothing. Cleared out. Labeled. She ran to the office drawer. Passwords. Documents. All gone. Even her laptop had been reset. User login required. Claire stood there in the silence of the house. A house that was no longer hers. The walls seemed colder. The ceiling higher. The silence louder. For the first time in their marriage, Mark had spoken louder than her. Not with words, but with signatures, clauses, titles. Trustee. Even her mother was no longer on her side. Or maybe she never really had been. The isolation didn't come all at once. It bled in around the edges, soft at first. The way the curtains were now an inch too short. The way the thermostat wouldn't respond. The way the digital picture frame blinked blank were photos of her and Mark used to loop. The house had started to forget her. Because the man she mocked didn't just leave. He erased her. Claire didn't hear Jason's car before it came screeching around the corner. She felt it. Like a sudden drop in barometric pressure before a thunderstorm. Tires kissed the curb with a fury that said someone had been told just enough to come in swinging. He practically threw himself out of the driver's seat, still in his gym shorts and hoodie, face flushed with rage. Where the hell is he? Jason barked before the front door was even open. Claire, pacing in the foyer, rushed to meet him on the porch. Jason, calm down. He wasn't listening. His eyes had already locked onto the suited man standing near the driveway. The same clipboard-carrying sentinel from yesterday. Jason pointed. Is that him? The guy you said tried to claim the house. Claire hesitated. He's just the rep. But Jason was already marching across the lawn, voice raised. Hey, I don't care who you are or what you think you're doing. This is my mother's house. You got that? The man didn't flinch. He turned calmly, just as Jason stopped a foot in front of him. Mr. Jason Miller? The man asked, flipping through his folder. Jason's chest puffed. That's right. And you're trespassing. The man reached into his briefcase and pulled out a sealed packet. He offered it forward. This is a copy of the revised deed, trust documentation, and occupancy status verification. You are welcome to review it, though your name does not appear on any listed beneficiary schedules. Jason frowned. What the hell does that mean? It means, the man said with quiet precision, you have no legal standing on this property, Mr. Miller. The trustee has full authority. Claire stepped beside her son, eyes darting between the two men. Don't listen to him, baby. This is your home too. You grew up here. Jason tore open the envelope with shaking fingers and scanned the top page. The words didn't hit him all at once. They landed in pieces. Trustee, Mark Whitmore. Successor, Eleanor Whitmore. Beneficiaries, none listed. He flipped to the clause about revocation of occupancy rights and stood frozen, lips moving soundlessly as he reread the paragraph. Then, he gave the house to someone else, Jason whispered, almost in disbelief. Claire grabbed the paper. No, he didn't. He can't. Mom. Jason looked at her like he didn't recognize her for a moment. He already did. This is done. And then, headlights. A dark silver sedan rolled slowly down the street and pulled into the driveway. The tires barely made a sound. Claire's stomach turned before the engine shut off. Mark stepped out. No suit. No dramatic posture. Just jeans, a blue flannel, and calm eyes that looked straight at them without fear or apology. Jason stiffened. You son of a... But Mark didn't flinch. He gave a single nod, like a man acknowledging a weather forecast he already predicted. And then he walked right past them. No words. No confrontation. Claire opened her mouth. Mark. He didn't pause. He walked up the path, past the porch, opened the front door with a key only he still had, and disappeared inside the home. His home. Jason turned to his mother. You let him do this? I didn't know, Jason. You said he was just sulking. That he'd come crawling back. That he stopped himself. That he was weak. Harmless. Trapped. But Mark wasn't trapped. He was free. And somehow, he had flipped the chessboard without ever lifting his voice. Jason turned, eyes still scanning the paper in his hand. What even is a trust? This doesn't make sense. This doesn't make legal sense. Claire whispered, almost to herself. He must have started this before he even moved out. And that's when it hit her. This wasn't rage-fueled. This wasn't impulsive. This was strategy. And now she stood outside a house she once bragged was already mine in everything but name. Turns out the name mattered after all. Because the man everyone called the nanny had just walked into the house like a king returning to his kingdom, calm, precise, unstoppable, and left them both standing on the lawn like trespassers in a life they used to own. The steakhouse was quiet, dimly lit, the kind of place that didn't take walk-ins and only served dessert if you didn't ask for it. Mark sat at the corner table near the fireplace, reserved under the name Whitmore, of course. A bottle of Cabernet had just been uncorked, glasses poured for three. Across from him sat James, his cousin, a CPA from the Pacific Northwest who looked like the kind of man no one remembered until the will was read. Clean, quiet, soft-spoken, and legally lethal when it came to property law. To his right, in a navy blouse and pearl earrings, sat Claire's mother. Yes, her mother. The same woman who once chuckled over Claire's jokes about Mark's cooking. Who once gave him a vacuum for Christmas as if to say, keep cleaning, dear. Now she was sipping wine beside him, watching the front door like she expected fire to walk through it. And it did. Claire burst in 15 minutes late, her heels echoing on the hardwood floor, face flushed with fury, phone still in hand. "You've got to be kidding me," she hissed as she spotted the trio at the back table. "Really, Mark? Really?" James calmly folded his napkin. Mark didn't stand. Her mother didn't turn. Claire stormed up to the table, voice low but shaking. "You're dragging my mother into this now?" Her mother finally looked at her. Coldly. "He's not dragging anyone." Claire blinked. "Mom, I'm here because I respect him," she said, voice flat. "Something you should have done." Claire's lips parted in disbelief. "You're taking his side?" Mark didn't speak. He just reached into the inner pocket of his blazer and slid a folded, napkin-wrapped envelope across the table. "Claire," he said finally, voice measured. "You may want to sit." She didn't, but she grabbed the envelope. The moment she opened it, her breath hitched. Photographs. Printed. Crisp. 8 by 10. Claire at a bar 3 months ago, arm draped across a man in a leather jacket, laughing, her hand on his thigh. Another of her whispering in his ear, her lips brushing his cheek. A final one, her sitting on his lap, drink in hand, smirking. She looked up slowly. "I was drunk." Mark didn't blink. "We weren't even talking back then." Mark sipped his wine. It didn't mean anything. Mark set his glass down. Her mother took the envelope, slid the photos out, and examined each one with surgical precision. She laid them out on the white tablecloth like a coroner identifying cause of death. "I told you," her mother said slowly, never looking up, not to take him for granted. Claire's knees buckled slightly, and she pulled out the chair across from Mark. "Saturday." Her voice dropped. "You've been spying on me?" Mark gave a small, tired smile. "No, you were just very public about things. I just kept the receipts." James, silent until now, added, "Technically, she was photographed by a private investigator who was also testing out a new camera system for his client." The bar owner signed a release. Nothing illegal. Nothing even questionable. Claire laughed once, sharp and brittle. "Wow, so this is the revenge tour?" The silent little butler finally grew a pair. Her mother stood. "Enough." Claire flinched. "You mocked him. You erased him from his own home. And now that he's standing upright, you want to play the victim?" Mark looked at Claire, his voice still even. "This isn't revenge. Revenge is loud. This is just rebalancing." Claire stared at her mother. "You're really siding with him?" "I'm siding with dignity," her mother snapped. "And right now, he's the only one at this table who still has any." Claire's eyes darted to the envelope, to the photos, to the wine, to James, to Mark. She looked smaller now. Like a kid caught cheating on a test she didn't bother studying for. The server arrived. "Ready to order?" Mark smiled politely. "Give us a few more minutes." The server nodded and left. Claire stood up, abruptly. "I can't do this." "No," her mother replied. "You just don't want to." And as Claire turned and walked out, heels clicking with less certainty than before, Mark calmly picked up the wine menu again. "James, you still like the Pinot with steak?" "I trust your judgment." They never spoke of Claire again that night. No gloating. No victory dance. Just dinner. Among people who saw Mark not as a nanny, or a servant, or a man to mock, but as the one who held the pen. The key didn't fit. Claire jiggled it, harder this time, twisting and yanking, muttering to herself. Then she paused and tried the second one on her ring. The third. Even the stupid novelty one Mark had made as a joke years ago. The one with the little piano engraving, because she always liked control. None of them worked. The door remained shut. The porch light was already on, motion activated, glowing over her like an interrogation lamp. She glanced around, scanning the windows. No movement. But the kitchen light was on. The dining room, too. Shadows flickered. She swore she saw someone walk past the front hall. "Mark?" She knocked. Nothing. She knocked again, harder this time, with the side of her fist. "Mark, open the door. I'm not playing games." Still nothing. She reached for the handle and tried again, more forcefully. Her voice cracked. "You've made your damn point, okay?" That's when the sheriff pulled up. Not a squad car. Just a white SUV with a gold badge on the door and the kind of quiet engine that doesn't announce itself until it's too close. Claire stepped off the porch as he got out. "You Claire Miller?" he asked. She crossed her arms. "Yes." "What is this?" The deputy pulled a folded paper from his clipboard and handed it to her. "Notice of revocation of non-beneficiary occupancy, issued by the Whitmore Family Legacy Trust. Enforceable as of 3 p.m. today." Claire blinked. "Excuse me." The trustee filed a request under Civil Code 872.13, Subsection C. You're not listed on the deed, and the trust executed occupancy control. I'm here to make sure there's no forced re-entry. She laughed, a short, humorless bark. You're joking. No, ma'am. Your personal belongings have already been cataloged by a bonded moving team. You'll be contacted with a retrieval schedule. You're going to let him kick me out of my own house. The deputy didn't even blink. Legally, ma'am, it's not your house. Claire threw the paper at his feet. He didn't pick it up. I paid for things in there. Furniture, decorations. My name is on the Wi-Fi bill. None of those are deedable claims, ma'am. He replied evenly. You'll need to pursue arbitration if you'd like to contest it. She rushed past him and tried the door again. Still locked. Still indifferent. Open the door, Mark. You coward. You smug little snake. This is my house. No response. Then she screamed. One long, guttural, primal scream. One that reached beyond words and into something raw and bitter. Somewhere across the street, a curtain twitched. Claire turned and saw her neighbor 2 houses down standing on the sidewalk with his phone up, filming. Don't you dare film me, she shouted. He didn't stop. Another neighbor peeked out from behind a car. Someone else stepped onto their porch. Claire looked around, surrounded now not by support, but by spectators. She turned back to the sheriff. Do something. I am, he said quietly. I'm keeping the peace. By 7 p.m., the video had hit local Twitter. By 8 o'clock, it had 1,000 retweets. By 9:30, it was captioned by a parody account. Lady screams after realizing the nanny owns the house. Claire watched it play out from the front lawn, sitting on the porch step like a squatter on a property that had erased her name. Her blouse was wrinkled, her lipstick smeared, her voice hoarse from yelling. People began tagging her by name. A blogger posted a screenshot from an old Facebook post, one where she joked that Mark still folds the towels wrong, but bless him, at least he tries. Someone else dug up an Instagram story from a year ago where she bragged about never needing to lift a finger. By midnight, she was trending under #HousewifeEvicted. She tried calling Jason. No answer. Tried texting her sisters. This isn't funny anymore. No response. The porch light stayed on. So did the lights in the living room, in the dining room, and the office upstairs. It wasn't Mark hiding inside the dark. It was Mark living inside the light. Claire was outside it now. Just her. A handbag. And a sheriff waiting politely to escort her off the property if she stepped 1 foot too far. No camera crew. No applause. No redemption arc. Only the cold, clean click of a deadbolt behind her. And the sound of laughter, real laughter, spilling from a home she used to command. Until the butler took the keys. The guest house was in Glendale, behind a 2-story Spanish-style home with a lemon tree out front and a koi pond someone's husband had built and forgotten to maintain. The air always smelled faintly of lavender and chlorine. It was the kind of place Claire once rolled her eyes at. Too small, too quiet, too humble. Now, it was her sanctuary. Her friend Melissa didn't ask too many questions, which suited Claire just fine. Stay as long as you need, she had said. This is what friends are for. And for the first 2 days, Claire clung to that idea like a life raft. She made phone calls, barked at lawyers, left a message for a journalist she vaguely remembered sleeping with 6 years ago. Nothing stuck. Everyone spoke in the same careful tone, sympathetic but immovable. Mark had followed the law. Perfectly. No fraud. No shady transfer. No hidden camera scandal. Just a series of deliberate, surgical filings. And now he was living in the house she used to call hers, throwing dinner parties, updating the landscaping, waving to neighbors with that same mild-mannered smile like he hadn't been the joke of every wine night for the last decade. Claire sat on the guest house deck that Friday morning, bathrobe cinched too tightly, sunglasses too large for her face, sipping iced coffee that tasted vaguely like humiliation. That's when the doorbell rang. She ignored it. Melissa was home. Then came a knock at the sliding glass door. Claire turned. A delivery man stood there, clipboard in hand, a manila envelope tucked under one arm. She opened the door halfway. Yes. Claire Miller. She hesitated. Who's asking? He handed her the envelope. Certified delivery. From Whitmore Family Trust. Please sign. Her hands twitched. Are you serious? He didn't blink. She signed. Sloppily. Then tore the seal off the envelope the moment the door clicked shut behind her. Inside was a short letter and a copy of a land title. Notice of termination of occupancy. Per Clause 6B of the lease agreement held by the Glendale Garden Property Holding Company, we inform you that the property currently serving as your residence falls under newly acquired holdings of the Whitmore Family Legacy Trust. You are not listed as an approved occupant. Please vacate within 48 hours. Her breath caught. She flipped the page. The trust now owned this land, too. She stormed out the door, phone in hand, dialing Melissa's number. Melissa, did you sell the guest house? What? No, what? Then why the hell did I just get an eviction notice from Mark's trust? Melissa hesitated. Claire, I sold the lot 2 months ago. Not the house. Just the back parcel where the guest house sits. It was underperforming, and honestly, you never cared before. The buyer was some shell company, cash offer, no fuss. I didn't ask questions. Claire's voice dropped to a whisper. He bought this. He knew I'd come here. Then, behind her, a voice. No, I knew you'd retreat here. She turned. Mark stood near the koi pond, hands in his coat pockets. Calm, dry-eyed, the wind barely rustling his jacket. How did you know I was here? She snapped. I didn't, he said. But I knew the pattern. You only run to people who won't question your version of events. She stared at him, mouth dry. You planned this. Mark gave a small shrug. I prepared. You bought this lot 2 months ago. Yes. You orchestrated every step of this. He looked her dead in the eye. I was never your nanny, he said quietly. But I was observant. Every rolled eye, every backhanded joke, every time you left me off the guest list or introduced me as just the guy who cooks. You handed me the blueprint. You're punishing me. No, he replied. I'm removing you from places you never valued. It's not punishment. It's alignment. She felt her legs buckle and dropped onto the patio chair, still holding the notice. I didn't think you had it in you. Mark nodded. You didn't think of me at all. He walked past her, heading toward the front gate. No gloating. No smug final remark. Just footsteps, measured and final. Claire looked down at the papers in her lap. Even her plan B was never hers. There was no more retreat. No more backup. Only the echo of every insult she'd ever made, now forming walls around her. Walls he built. The bench across the street was old, warped slightly in the middle, and one of the bolts on the left side had long since rusted away. Claire sat on it anyway, hands wrapped around a takeout coffee she didn't drink. Her eyes were locked on the house across the road. The house with perfect lighting, trimmed hedges, and laughter spilling out onto the lawn like a song she was no longer allowed to hum. It was past 8. The porch light was on, casting a soft gold halo over the front steps she used to sweep. Inside, silhouettes moved. Guests she didn't recognize at first, then did. Mark's cousin James, that sharp-eyed woman from the trust office, even her own mother, her silver hair unmistakable even from across the street. They were passing plates, raising glasses. Someone inside laughed loud enough that Claire flinched. The curtains weren't drawn. Mark never used to leave them open at night. He said it felt like living in a fishbowl. He left them open now. Claire sat still, bone cold, watching her former life animate without her. She'd spent the day signing release forms, surrendering keys, and answering calls from journalists who didn't care about her side. Just the headline. The nanny husband who flipped the house. The eviction of a queen bee. Hashtag trust fund reversal. The internet had moved on by now. But Claire hadn't. She hadn't moved at all. Her phone buzzed. The number was unlisted. But the message was unmistakably Mark. Home is something you build. You tried to rent it. You don't live here anymore. She stared at the words. Read them 3 times. Then looked up. Mark was standing on the porch. Not with smugness. Not even defiance. Just calm. Still. Like a man at peace with the blueprint he followed. Even if it took years to draw. He didn't wave. Didn't smirk. Just watched. Claire's fingers tightened around the coffee cup. The cup was cold. Her spine ached. Her shoes pinched. Her life, quietly, brutally, was now something she observed, not lived. She wanted to hold his gaze. Wanted to stare him down. Prove she still had teeth. But her eyes dropped first. To the ground. To her lap. To nothing. And when she looked up again, the porch was empty. The laughter inside continued without pause. A plate clinked against glass. The door shut softly behind him. And Claire remained where she was, on the warped bench, across the street from the house she used to mock him in, learning the final truth far too late. A man mocked enough times might not raise his voice. But he might build something you can't tear down. And lock the door behind him.